Ladies and gentlemen, it is another day and that calls for another team. This team, the Charlotte Hornets, it's a really weird one because the Charlotte Hornets are one of those teams at the moment where they're like really stuck in mediocrity. And I don't really at the moment see a way where they get out of it really quickly. It really sucks because for the most part, they actually play quite an exciting game of basketball. It's just they can't find a way to get themselves out of this mediocrity slump. For me personally, I think the biggest thing they have done in this offseason is re-signing Trey Mann to that deal. I've been high on Trey Mann ever since he came into the league up at OKC. He was a really good basketball player for OKC, and I think just for like how good he was and the contract situation, OKC couldn't fit him in at the time. So he made his way down to Charlotte, and he has been playing really good basketball for them. Ever since Terry Rozier made his way from the Hornets down to the Miami Heat, he has basically been that Terry Rozier kind of player who he will get you a bucket when you need him to get you one. And he is a great second piece for LaMelo Ball because LaMelo, we know how good of a playmaker LaMelo Ball is. He is going to find Trey Mann time and time again. And if he can continue to score the ball on that clip that he is scoring it can only get better for the Charlotte Hornets. Obviously, the biggest thing probably to touch on with the Hornets, 5th overall draft pick. They picked up Con Knuppel. I think Knuppel's his name. I'm not really too sure on the pronunciation just yet, but I'm just trying to work it out as I go. 6'7", out of Duke, another forward, which to me just seems like they're redrafting another Miles Bridges. Because we know what we're getting out of Miles Bridges. I'm not too familiar with Knuppel's game as a whole just yet. I'm going to have to wait for him to sort of get in the league. I'll have a look at some of the clips and stuff that he can provide. I'll be watching some Charlotte Hornets basketball this season, but for the most part, it's probably just going to be highlights and clips and that sort of thing. 5th overall draft pick out of Duke, more often than not, is going to provide you a pretty good basketball player. Duke provided a lot of great basketball talent this year. Like coming out of, I think their whole starting lineup got drafted out of this draft, which is incredible. We will see what happens with him. But for the most part, I feel like if you're going to have two Miles Bridges type players on the floor, because we know how good Miles Bridges is, getting downhill, getting to the rim. He can also shoot the three ball at like a 30% sort of clip for when you need him to, just on those corner and wing threes. You're not really getting him to pull up off the dribble, shoot that three-point shot. If Knuppel is able to do that, then that's a different story. I'm just not too familiar with his game yet, so I will try and work myself to find out how he is with his game. I'm sort of familiar with sort of the upper draft picks, but just not so much Knuppel at the moment. So I'll find out what he is going to provide to the team, but he will probably be a step in the right direction. Look, as far as you can put it, you're not going to get a bad top 5 draft pick out of Duke. Especially a 6'7" small forward type of build. It is the most ideal build that you can get for a basketball player in today's NBA. Because they're one of those people that more often than not, they're getting trained to the point where they can shoot the ball at a high clip. They can get to the ring. They're able to play defense. It's just the perfect, build for a person to go into the league. So we will see sort of what happens with him and how he develops on that, like both sides of the ball. Because the biggest thing with the Charlotte Hornets so far to date for me, they cannot play defense. You have LaMelo Ball, who is an all-star caliber, close to all-NBA offensive player, but you take him down the defensive side of the ball, he may as well be a traffic cone. Miles Bridges is an okay defender, but as I said, because of his frame and his build, he has that sort of build where he can use to provide himself with what he wants to do on that side of the ball. Trey Mann, as I said, ridiculous on the offensive side of the ball, not so much on the defensive side of the ball. You got Seth Curry coming off the bench. He can shoot the hell out of the ball like all the Currys can, but he's not bringing it to you on the defensive side of the ball. If I'm not mistaken, as of right now, Mason Plumlee is the starting center of the Hornets, which is a bit how you going, considering they just lost Mark Williams in that deal that went out to Phoenix. He finally actually passed the physical, so Mark Williams was finally allowed out of Charlotte, which is just... Anyway, that's a story for another day. That's a story to talk about the Suns. You've got Mason Plumlee, and you've got... I forget what his name was. They have another center. Their only other center on the roster is the 34th pick in the draft this year in the second round. Their entire roster consists of a whole lot of guards, a couple of forwards, and one center in Mason Plumlee. And don't get me wrong, I love me some Mason Plumlee, and he is a good basketball player. But good is about the best you're going to get. He's not really going to make too much of an impact on both sides of the ball. For God's sake, he shoots left-handed free throws and he's a right-handed player. That's what they're going to have to work out. They just lost their best center. Nick Richards was the other guy I'm thinking of, but he has also moved on in a deal. So it kind of makes that situation for the Hornets much worse. Mason Plumlee in the great 2025 going into 26 isn't a starting rotation center on a decent basketball team. So that is probably the biggest thing I would say for the Hornets that they need to improve on. I'm not too sure what this other center is going to give them, but he might be able to give them something that I'm not really aware of just yet. I'll find out when the season starts. But for the most part, we're going to be relying on Mason Plumlee as Charlotte Hornets fans to get the job done. And if I'm a Charlotte Hornets fan, I really don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, guard depth-wise, they're building something pretty decent. I still really don't know how I feel about LaMelo Ball as the number one option on a contending team. It is really something like that we're yet to see, and I'm not sure if we're ever going to see it. But until the time comes and until LaMelo is playing actually impactful, meaningful basketball, we're actually not really going to know. The only way that you do see that happening is if you make the playoffs. And for right now, the Charlotte Hornets, I don't know, are a chance of making the playoffs. Because you go through all the rosters in the league, the Charlotte Hornets aren't one that really stand out to me. I think it really, for the most part, might be another rebuilding year. They probably need 1 or 2 more years. They have the rights to all their draft picks. They haven't made any decent trades in the last few years. So they're holding on to all these draft picks, all their draft capital. 1 or 2 more years of rebuild, and I reckon Charlotte will be in a much better place. If you go to next year's draft and you pick up a really good center that's not Mason Plumlee, I feel like I'm dragging Mason Plumlee for the dirt, and I feel really bad, but it's just, as a contending team, it is what it is. If you can pick up a really good center, then they will start to look in the right direction. Because Grant Williams this season will probably get backup center minutes for the Hornets. And Grant Williams is 6'6". And I know for damn sure Grant Williams is not Draymond Green on the defensive side of the ball. So I don't know how that's really going to go for them. Yeah, we will see what happens, and we'll see what happens with this Hornets roster. But to be honest, I think they probably go 12 seed this season. They won't be the worst team in the East. I don't have a doubt in my mind, but they will be far from the best. It's going to be another year rebuilding for the Hornets. See what happens. See what they do sort of in that... what happens in that mid-season sort of drafting, trading window. See what happens. We don't really know too much from the Hornets at the moment, but just Knuppel, if he can develop and he can find himself in the NBA frame and find his way in the NBA, I feel like that will make a huge difference for him and the team as a whole. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got. The Hornets, they haven't really made a ton of moves in this offseason, so I can't really make too much of a video on them because of this. It's just development. That's the only thing that I've got really for the Hornets this year. They've just got to develop their players. Obviously, LaMelo Ball is in like year 5 now. He is aging quickly. He's probably up to about 25 years old, which is just ridiculous. And Miles Bridges, getting older. Sort of these guys, they won't be around forever. They're not quite veterans just yet, but they're going to continue to age. And if the Hornets continue to be mediocre, I don't see where these guys' careers sort of go. So it's going to be hard to say, really, what happens with them. But if Luka Doncic can get traded, I don't see why LaMelo Ball can't go anywhere else. That's pretty much it for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Short form content is out. If you're watching this, I've got the TikTok going. So if you want to go show love to the TikTok, that would be awesome. The shorts are getting posted on YouTube as well. So you're not missing out on any of the short form content. Everything that goes on there will also be on here. It's just sort of trying to expand the brand, get my face into different areas and sort of see where I go from there. But if you want to go and show some love, that would be greatly appreciated. This longer content is basically the main thing. Without this longer content, I won't be doing just short form because I'm not the biggest fan of short form, but it is today's media. So I'm just sort of building around it. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, subscribing. I've finally got the profile picture up so I don't look like a robot anymore in the face of the internet. So I am here. This is, it's growing ever so slowly, but it is growing. So thank you guys so much. I will see you guys tomorrow. There'll be more short form out later in the day. And I will see you guys then. Thank you guys.